So, you want to build a majestic monolith, but what you end up instead with is a big ball of mud. Or you've recently started a new job and you've inherited a big ball of mud. Now, if you want to move from the right side to the left side, one good idea is to modularize your application. There are various strategies and best practices how you could go on about this. This is not what this talk is about. Instead, we look at two tools that help you to implement modules and to make sure you don't accidentally break your module boundaries. And what's important about these tools is they allow you to move in baby steps. So if you already have an existing code base, you can apply these step by step at your own pace. The tools we'll look at are a private constant and packwerk. Let's move right in. Private constant is a Ruby built-in. It's part of the language. Let's have a look at some code. Say you have this taxes module. It is comprised of two classes. One is tax details that contains some logic to calculate some taxes, internal logic. The other one's the apply class, that's sort of the service object, and clients of our module are expected to use apply if they want to calculate something, as you can see in the remainder of the listing. Okay, great, we shipped it, it works. Sometime later, someone comes along and writes this view. Have a look at where the arrow points. What they do is they use the details class, the one that's supposed to be internal. That's not what we want. What happens here is this view now couples to tax details. So if we go back to the taxes module and we refactor something there, we might break the view and we might have to fix it. What we can do is we can go back to our taxes modules and introduce this private constant statement which makes the class private to the module, and if we go back to the view, the programmer gets an exception and they know that they'll have to go back to the taxes module and have a look at it and try to understand how it's supposed to be used. That's all there is to it. You can use it right away and it helps you to define your module API to say which pieces of it are public. And if you have this sort of well-defined or concisely defined, strictly defined API, that's also a great point to where you can add codes to your comments to your code. So because people who have to use the module or who have to understand it, they'll have to look at these parts, so they're sure to see that documentation. That was private constant. We'll now move on to packwerk. Packwerk is a gem. We've seen that with private constant we can define which pieces of our module are meant to be used by others. With packwerk we can also say who these others are. So I can say my tax use case is allowed to use the tax module, but please not the support use case. Please let them not couple. You can also go and say my application is divided into layers. My modules live on a certain layer and I only want the upper layers to talk to lower layers, or I only want the outer layers to talk to inner layers. Packwerk can then check these. As soon as you've defined the rules, you can check them. You can, of course, also do this inside of your CI. So packwerk is a gem by Shopify, should be well maintained. And it has a to-do list like Robocop, so you can define your rules, you can let it analyze your code and have it generate this to-do list, so the check will ignore the already known violations of your rules. You can then continue working, and if you introduce new problems, new violations, the check will tell you. And the other to-dos you can fix at your own pace, so baby steps. There's a lot more to packwerk, check it out. For example, someone built a visualizer so you can generate a diagram of the module structure of your application. We had a look at two tools. Private constant, Ruby built-in, you can use it right away. And the packwerk gem takes more time and thought to set up, but has more power. And yeah, these are my contact details. We have a booth in the back where you can have a caipirinha and say hi with us if you want. and have fun building modularized, majestic monoliths.